Okay.
Cool. All right, so before we begin, we kind of want you guys to take a minute, relax, sit back, and think about something that makes you feel comfortable, okay? Take yourself to your safe space. So it could be a piece of clothing, a brand, a stuffed animal that just puts you into a very comfortable spot. Yeah? Got it? Sweet. That's the exact mindset that we want to create in the minds of our Dropbox customers. Today, I'm here with my team, Maria, Sooruj, Gordon, and myself, Sri, and our plan is to implement a long-term growth strategy for Dropbox that creates the customer loyalty mindset in the minds of our customers that's eventually going to transform them into paid consumers. We've broken down our customers into two different types. The first one being consumers. These guys are the ones that use Dropbox outside of the workplace. And our goal here is to capture them earlier on, build customer loyalty, and then convert that into paid usership in the long term. The second customer type are enterprise and small business users. Over here, our goal is to target startup companies who need something like Dropbox to go through their basic operational activities, connect them to employees who are working remotely in different locations, and then leverage that track record to strategically enter the bigger businesses and the enterprise world. Our goal is to hit a revenue goal of 2015 for consumers of $40 million and hit a 2015 revenue goal of $760,000 for the small business and enterprise sphere. That includes mostly startups. The reason why we broke our customers down into these two different customer types is because of the underlying symptoms that we identified. The first one being people aren't really trusting Dropbox to be the optimal cloud storage service that can get the job done for them, right? And that's when we see the lack of conversion from customers who are, using our products, but they're not willing to pay for it. We have tons of customers using Dropbox as their everyday cloud storage service, but only 2 to 3% of them are willing to pay money to expand on their services. The second half would be the lack of trust within enterprises. Enterprises definitely don't recognize Dropbox as someone that they can hold brand efficacy with, and we definitely want to build on that by building trust in one sphere and then expanding that to the bigger enterprise sphere.
So when looking at consumers, what we really wanted to do was identify what is the problem. What problem does Dropbox see when they look at the consumer segment? So we did a gap analysis to identify what does the consumer want and how does Dropbox meet those needs. So primarily we looked to security, storage, and price sensitivity. And those are key attributes that consumers are looking for in the service that they are looking for. And Dropbox is able to sufficiently meet those needs. But then we looked to the ability to transition between milestones, which I'll talk more specifically about in a second. And we see that in terms of the current offering, there is no specific offering from Dropbox to be able to transition between milestones in a person's lifetime. So we have identified a gap, and this is a problem that we need to mitigate with our long-term strategy. So we look at milestones, we see that there's 3 main milestones we've identified in a person's life. And it's a very linear and straightforward process. In high school, individuals are very brand receptive, and they're also very likely to take on brands that they're exposed to in a school setting. Moving to university, they're in a new atmosphere, and once again, very likely to take on different brands and different services that they're exposed to within a college or campus atmosphere. And lastly, when you look to work and family, you see individuals who most likely see a service provided within the workspace that they're mandatorily supposed to take on, and within family are likely to turn to those products that they've seen before, and those that they have brand loyalty towards. When we look at the life milestones in terms of a consumer segment, and in terms of the product being offered, it's a very segmented lifestyle, and it's a very segmented life stream. So when you're in high school, you may be exposed to a specific brand, but then moving to university or college, you may be then exposed to a different one. And then again, with work and family, a different one. And so we have identified gaps here that we need to fill. And thus, we want to create a streamlined transition from the start to end in order to have a very transitional and very simplified process so that individuals can have great access to their storage and database. In terms of life milestones, it's really important to have your investment early on in life. So you want to make sure you're investing very early on in the life cycle, such as in grade school and high school, so that you have the brand exposure. Because it's been proven in marketing studies that the earlier on you gain brand exposure, the more likely your consumer is going to be loyal in terms of their entire life cycle. So in terms of strategy and implementation, We want to see this investment very early on by creating early partnerships that I'll speak more to in a second. But as well, it's not only important to have those early ones, but maintain the partnerships as well. So seeing that you have partnerships later on, such as in universities, they'll be able to maintain that implementation and maintain the relationship with those individuals. We'll then go into free features and converting a milestone that I'll explain more into in a second. So in terms of early partnerships, we want to partner with specific school boards so that individuals and consumers are exposed to specific brands early on in their life stage, and it's semi-mandatory. So they'll be exposed to Dropbox in the classroom, and it's kind of a system that you take on because it's something that you see in the classroom and not because you want to. Next, you move on to maintain partnerships. So that's making partnerships with universities. And by doing so, you're maintaining this cycle of moving from the elementary or high school level into university and making that transition very seamless. So the files that you were exposed to and had in elementary and high school can be very simplified and accessed within a university setting. Moving to free features and converting at milestones, we want to have free features available that are premium features available to other services. And so these are things like sharing with 2 or more emails, more than 2 gigabytes of storage, and things like that are only specifically offered to the premium segment. And we want to do this for specific schools so that they're able to see what they're missing out on. And then as the milestones progress, so once you move to university, you start losing more and more of those premium features, so you're more likely to buy into the program as time moves on.
So now that we're going to touch on how we can invest in these consumers at an early age, such as high school, I want to touch more on how we can attract SMBs and enterprises moving forward. So the main problem here is that targeting consumers and targeting SMBs are completely different beasts. So as you can see by these target balls, so like a full ball means they value that criteria the most. We can see immediately that SMBs and enterprise value very different things. They value firstly security, secondly support, and lastly storage. And these criteria are actually supported by third-party stats. So as you can see, they really value security because by 2020, 1/3 of all data will actually be on the cloud. And the cost of an average data breach is $3.4 million. So we're dealing with a lot of money. But the main thing here is that while these SMB and enterprises, they require a lot of things such as security, we are not in a position to provide that because of our brand perception. It's a problem that all startups are dealing with. How does a scrappy startup like Dropbox convince a multi-billion-dollar company like McDonald's to use their service? But on the other hand, when we look at consumers and startups, Dropbox is actually well positioned to capture both these target markets. We can see that they already have sufficient traction in terms of consumers. And consumers and startups are actually very, very similar in the reason that they both like price and also cross-platform integration. And to speak more about cross-platform integration, it's actually something that is becoming more and more prevalent because of the growth of mobile, as you can see by global cell phone production, and also the growth of US remote workers. So essentially having your files on your phone and on your desktop computer at home and also your work computer is very, very important. Because of all these facts, the implication is to develop a 3-phase attack plan to really gather these SMBs. Firstly, we're going to start with the low-hanging fruit by piloting Dropbox with startups. So essentially Y Combinator startups that Dropbox has also worked with in the past and also really partnered with them. And secondly, we want to build market eminence with these startups by proving that we have great security, great support. And once we develop this in phase 2, we will go to these SMBs and Fortune 500 companies and show them that we have a strong track record of performing well with startups so that we can basically enter this market very easily. The key implication is by piloting with these small startups, which is low-hanging fruit, Dropbox will be able to gain brand efficacy and also market eminence so they can easily penetrate this enterprise market in the future. And moving on to financials.
So for our enterprise solution, we realized there was one big trade-off we had to make regarding implementation. So we could either go for a first mover advantage, try and get a product to market as quickly as possible, because we know that's really important in the technology industry. On the other hand, we could try to iterate our product and then make sure that when we did release, it was successful. We opted to go for the latter. We decided that if we did release too soon and it was a failure, that we wouldn't be able to recover from that. So with that in mind, we decided for the first 2 years that we'd be marketing to the other startups within our Y Combinator batch. So after that, we figured that we could maybe leapfrog towards small businesses. And by 2014, we decided that large enterprises, after 4 years of market data, they would be willing to adopt our solution if it had been successful. With that in mind, with an $800 per month purchase price and roughly $1,000 businesses adopting this, we figured that roughly we'll be able to receive $10 million in revenue from this enterprise solution. Towards the customer solution, we use a 15% growth rate in customers as should I stop or?
Done.
Good job, guys.
Okay.
Well done. Okay, so I'll start off. The one I liked how the partnership idea, and I liked that I was kind of intertwined between targeting like consumers, and you had a similar idea with enterprises. That makes sense. My kind of one concern was from like a customer-led value standpoint. So if you're targeting like school boards, now I don't know, 10 years old. I'm really only paying for this product until I'm like 22 when I graduate university. It's a pretty big like upfront cost. I was wondering if you guys ran any like numbers on that.
I was assuming that they had to pay for the whole 12 years right at the start.
Well, so my understanding of it was that if you partnered with the school board, it would be free for the students.
Yeah.
So is the school board going to pay for it, or are we providing it for free in hopes that we convert these students?
We already have a free model, right?
Right.
And so we'd be offering these premium features to them for free,
Right.
because as we realize it's a small incremental cost, but by gaining that adoption, they get used to it. When they move on, they transition, as we mentioned, they'd be more willing to purchase the premium model for themselves. So that was our thinking with that.
So I have a question too relating to that. So you said that you're going to reduce the features kind of at each milestone, and logically as you get older in university, your data needs are going to be increasing, right? So how receptive do you think the universities would be to that, like knowing that you're giving, say, a high school so much more?
So I think that kind of leads into the fact that we want people to purchase the premium plan. So the fact that they've been exposed to this kind of package where they've had these features that are premium and they're losing them, now they'll be able to see, well, I'm missing out on this, so I'll be more likely to purchase it. And as well on the flip side, they're not necessarily losing the capacity to have storage, it's just specific premium features. So it might be the capacity to retrieve archived files that have been deleted, or the capacity to access an account with multiple emails. So you could be maintaining that capacity to have large storage, but you are losing some premium features. But the flip side of that on our end is that it is kind of a more incentive for people to purchase that premium plan, which is our end goal there.
In the short term, you talked about targeting other startups. It would seem like a difficult space to get into because obviously startups are pretty frugal with their spending, and there's probably other services that provide similar products for free, right? Like we already provide this for free.
Mm-hmm.
How would you convince these startups that it's worth paying you?
Yeah, so basically our whole rationale by targeting startups is that they're very similar to consumers. So they work from home, they probably like share a job as account at home. So how we're going to market them is with the exact same model as we've been using to attract consumers. So essentially with the freemium model that we've gotten to like 10 million users today, is the exact same model we'll be pushing out to startups. So you get it for free, and then once you pass a certain amount of storage, then you can pay. So it's like a pay-as-you-go plan basically.
Right.
So we work with, as the startup scales and they get more revenue, then we start charging them. So it's like a fair stance on both sides.
Great.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yep, we got time.
Okay. So you were highlighting that two of the issues or two of the wants of small and medium businesses and enterprises are security and support, but that's something that Dropbox is currently lacking. What do you want to do to address that concern?
I think that's the reason why we wanted to focus on the whole startup target group, because with them, if we can build the momentum and say, you know what, looking back, we've spent about 5 years working with startups, we've bettered our product through these 5 years, we've learned and improved the experience that the enterprise is going to get. At the end of the day, we're kind of depending on that build-up to really cater to the enterprise and the small businesses as a target.
And just to add on to that, I know Sooruj already mentioned, but we'll be starting targeting Fortune 500 companies in 2014. So we'll have 4 years of iterations that we can make with our software, with startups, with SMBs, which are pretty low risk, before we have a polished product that we can actually give the Fortune 500 companies. So that's how we're kind of mitigating that risk of bad security and bad software.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of really easy implementation that we could go right off the bat. Two-factor authentication being the first one. We realize that that's going to be too clunky for a commercial product. These retail consumers aren't going to want to have that weighing down their this solution, which is supposed to be really seamless. But then on the corporate side of it, they'd really appreciate that. So we have some ideas for that. So.
I think that's it, so I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll wrap it up quick.
Awesome, guys.